In 1986, he graduated from Amherst College and currently lives in Aberdeen with his wife and the younger two of his 5 children, who attend school in the area. Elected to Washington State Legislature in 2016, he represents the 19th Legislative District, including parts of Grays Harbor, Pacific, Cowlitz, Waukegan, and Lewis counties. He is no go-along-to-get-along guy. In August of 2021, along with 4 state Republican lawmakers, he held an unofficial hearing calling for a forensic audit similar to the one criticized in Arizona. Walsh publicly refused to comply with Washington State's COVID-19 proof of vaccination requirements. He was subsequently denied entrance to the Capitol building. This year, Jim Walsh proposed House Bill 1633, creating a state family empowerment scholarship program, offering $10,000 a year scholarships to K-12 students and their families. As we might have expected, it was rejected. Now, this bold representative is leading the charge to collect signatures for a ballot initiative. Representative Jim Walsh tells conference attendees how to reverse bad legislation. Initiative process.
Well, do you want to reclaim your rights as parents and grandparents? Do you want to push out of our school systems comprehensive sex education? Do you want to balance the politically partisan critical race theory with fact-based history of our country and our states? Well, you can do this, and like the Declaration of Independence says, you not only have the ability to do it, you have the duty to throw off bad government and replace it with better guardians of your liberty. The key to real education reform is 2 parts: transparency and choice. And the 2 of them must work together, because by themselves, each piece will not get us the real reform that we want and that we need. And we need it desperately, because the quality of public education in this country is declining. It's crashing downwards. Proficiency testing for our high school students is showing us the measure of the problem. In my state, across the river, nearly 70% of high school students can't do high school math. And half can't read or write at a high school level. Now, this is failure. You've heard earlier today why it's a failure. It's not an accident. It is an ideological agenda designed to diminish our schools and our kids. But you have the tools to fix this. You have the means to turn around the schools and return high-quality basic education. You've heard what that is: reading, writing, math, hard sciences, and civics to your kids and grandkids' desks and tables. Now, you have the power to do this. You just don't appreciate how much power you have. There are tools, legislative tools, legal tools that you can use to make good change. There are political tools. What I suggest to you is the best way to win this culture war, and it is a war. Like Andrew Breitbart said famously, politics and policy are downstream of culture. The battle is at the high level of the cultural debate, conversation. We need to fight there, and we need to fight in the trenches, in the mechanics of school boards and legislatures. But we can't forget that hearts and minds are one with ideas, not the minutiae of public policy. And the idea of public education is that it empowers and ennobles all children. Education is the great equalizer in a republic. What it means is that a child born to any circumstance can build herself or himself up, can come out of a hard situation, a bad situation, a troubled youth, and can make themselves anything, a president, a governor, a CEO. But they have to receive from us the fundamental tools of understanding, which are not self-indulgence, which are not idleness, which are not profanity. Those tools are the understanding, the means of understanding immortal truths. Truths of math, truths of the physical world, truths of the spirit, truths of the intellect. And what we are doing now by degrading our public schools and coarsening what our children study in those schools is robbing them of those tools and that ability to set the course for their own lives, to build themselves into whatever they want to be. By focusing on the most base elements of our human existence, we are sentencing them to a prison of mediocrity and lack of achievement and indolence. And these are not the qualities that our country and our states were built on. It is not the political class that is supposed to design and determine and define how our children live. It's supposed to be all of our jobs and the family's job to determine how a child is educated, how a child is formed. We can't yield that to bureaucrats. And we don't have to. We don't have to. We have in our system this idea of federalism, of local governments, of authority invested the most acutely, the most directly in the most local form of government. We talk about school boards. We talk about the brave school boards. We complain about the cowardly school boards. But the point is that those school boards are supposed to be the entities making the decisions about what your children and grandchildren learn. It is not supposed to be a process defined from above. It's not supposed to be curriculum and textbooks delivered to local school boards by the federal Department of Education or by the state education bureaucracies. And it breaks my heart when a school board says to parents and families, we can't do anything about this. The worst part of the comprehensive sex ed agenda is it robs the local authority, locally elected school board members, of the ability to decide what kids in their town in their county are learning. And then you hear it from the school board members. We can't make this decision. It's made for us by the state. They are giving us the curriculum, whether it's Flash or 3Rs or whatever the specifics are. It's not just the objection in the content of those sex ed courses, it's the method by which they're being forced on you and your children. So let's change the method. And the best way to do that, the front door, is to elect better and new legislators and executives. Easy to say, not so easy to do. But you know the drill there. It's local activism, it's great grassroots activism, it's local networks of people supporting better candidates. But if that doesn't work, we have to use other tools. And in Olympia, we have been fighting against the majority's wretched and self-abasing policies toward K-12 education, and we are the real insurrectionists. We are the ones disrupting the system. And we don't do it by wearing water buffalo hats and marching around. We do it by using the levers of government. And of immediate importance, what we're doing right now across the river, and what you can do on this side of the river, is we're using initiatives to push policy. We developed a group of initiatives, 11 of them, some of which touch directly on K-12 education, to force the discussion of what real reform looks like. How do we avoid a system of pushing comprehensive sex ed on third graders? How do we avoid this self-abasing, self-loathing system of study that we know as critical race theory? How do we prevent school-based health care, which allows young teenagers to make life-altering choices without telling their parents? And worse still, the part we didn't talk about earlier today, leaves the parents on the hook for the cost. Disgusting. How do we change this? We change this, as I said before, by focusing on those two elements. And the element of most immediate urgency is transparency. We cannot allow parents and grandparents to be cut out and denied access to curriculum, to course texts, and to activities like healthcare that are beyond any curriculum. The activities on a K-12 campus must be completely open and transparent to all citizens. And what we are doing on the Washington side of the river with the initiative is simply stating that all 295 school districts in the state of Washington must make public their complete curricula for all to see. And from that ability to see what they're doing, families can make meaningful choices about the education of their kids and grandkids. And when we say make meaningful choices, what do we mean by that? I mean, you can always pull your kids out of the school. And certainly in my world, most families are either doing that or are considering doing it. And in Olympia, as in Salem, the governments are playing tricky games with enrollment numbers. You can pull your kids out of the school, but at least for the next couple of years, The school's apportionment monies, that is their operating monies they receive on an ongoing basis from the state, are frozen at pre-COVID levels because COVID screwed everything up. No, it wasn't COVID. It was comp sex ed and critical race theory and garbage training of young minds. That's what's causing the exodus. But they say it's COVID and they freeze the money at the 2019 levels. So that alone doesn't make the political statement that you wish it would. But we want to enable that choice. We want to make that choice a political statement, a statement that affects how we run K-12 education policy. So toward that end, we need to offer families the financial mechanism of choice. You can call it a voucher, you can call it a scholarship, I don't care what you call it, but the money of public education must follow the child. In Washington, our plan was to allow $10,000 per year per child to go with the child. In Washington, for legal and constitutional reasons, we don't call it a voucher, we call it a scholarship. That's fine, it's a scholarship. $10,000 goes with the kid each year. Now, this is actually a moneymaker for school districts because their standard allocation per student is about 18 grand, as Leaves mentioned earlier. So if you think about it, it's kind of a win-win. The family gets $10,000 to apply to whatever form of education it chooses for their child. The school district says so long to a butt and a seat, but still gets to keep about $8,500 for nothing. So it actually can increase the per student spending in a school district. And more importantly, the family gets meaningful choice. They can take that $10,000 chit, that scholarship, and they can move their child to another public school, to a charter school, even though in Washington we're choking the pipeline of charter schools. That's another matter, we'll fix that soon. Or to a pod, I kind of like this one. A skilled teacher can set up in someone's home or a garage somewhere or wherever they want a little miniature school district where he or she teaches half a dozen or a dozen kids in what is essentially a modern version of a one-room schoolhouse, and can take those $10,000 vouchers and make a decent living and supply decent textbooks or computers or whatever they think will work best, and give that dozen kids personal attention and specifically tailored curriculum and education study guides. And I assure you, these pods, they may be the most disruptive technology there is in K-12 education. Now, you can also use it for a homeschooling program if that's your cup of tea. I've got to tell you, though, some of the homeschoolers, they weren't happy with my bill because they want nothing to do with the government. They don't want the government's $10,000. They don't want anything. They don't like the idea of having to pay property taxes that they're not benefiting from directly, but they've kind of written that money off. They just want to educate their kids the way they want to do it, and they don't want any involvement of the state. And it's kind of hard to argue against their perspective given the state's awful track record in screwing up public education. But we're going to modify the bill slightly to make it clear that if homeschoolers do choose to participate, they are insulated from the corrosive influence of the state. But like any free market system, the point of parent choice isn't about what the right choice is. It's not our position as government to say anything about that. but from 40,000 or 100,000 or a couple of million independent decisions about what's best for your child, quality eventually emerges. Better education results and outcomes happen. And it's not because we're geniuses at the Capitol making edicts about how it's going to be, because you know what happens when we do that. The worst happens. Our edicts aren't that genius. None of us are that smart. And the things we try to force on you are usually wrong. So it's you. It's you as a parent. It's you as a grandparent. You, in your bones, in your gut, you know what is best for your kids. And the best we can do is get out of your way. So I started, I guess, with a reference to Breitbart. I'll end with a reference to the Washington State Constitution. Article 1, Section 1 of that document sets it up right. All political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And those governments exist to protect and maintain individual rights. There is no right to tell your child that he is a she. There is no right to teach what I want. But there is a right to raise your child the way you choose to raise your child. And there is a right to educate your child as you think is best, until they can think it best for their own when they're not a child anymore. God bless you all. Stay active, stay involved, and this is a culture war. We will win.
We know after this great presentation, you will want to join Parents' Rights in Education. It just makes sense. Activism can be enjoyable when you are surrounded by like-minded people. And together, we win. Go to the website and click on the Join Us tab. Fill out the form there to receive important news alerts and information. We have state chapters in more than 10 states, and we have followers all over the country, and we'll do our best to connect you with like-minded people in your area. Like us on Facebook and join a state and local Facebook group. We are not new to this arena of fighting for parents' rights. You will want to watch the PRIE history video on our homepage. Don't have time to read? Also featured on the homepage is the podcast, Parents' Rights Now. These are not meant to be entertaining, but provide valuable information, catching you up on the issues quickly. Would you like to contribute to our cause? We are a tax-deductible 501c3 organization. Click on the donate button on our website. We need your help, and we can't do it alone. Consider joining the 12 by 12 Club. Your gift of just $12 or more will help restore parents' rights across the country. Together, we are winning.